Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio. So today, we're going to start our look at the VGC 2018 format. And we are looking at the best Pokemon in that format, or at least the presumptive best Pokemon, Therian form Landorus, although I'm just going to call it Landorus for the rest of the video to be easy. Back in 2016 was the last time that Landorus really was relevant in a format, and it was in the winning team at Worlds, the runner-up team, both the top 4 teams, and all 4 of the top 8 teams. So when I tell you that Landorus is going to own a format, it could well own a format. We don't have any tournament results to go on so far. It's literally the 7th of January, and this started on the 1st. But what we do have is the online battle spot, the official online forum to go and battle in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. And who is the #1 Pokemon at the moment? Oh, look, it's Landorus. The other thing to mention just before we get going here is, of course, that this is going to be a regular thing. My VGC 17 coverage started a little late and was not as consistent as it should have been. There is going to be minimum 1 new profile every weekend. I will make a little playlist on my video to make it easier for you guys, but it's going to be regular, it's going to be at least weekly, and hopefully more than 1 video. So if you're thinking, this is a TCG channel, I don't need to subscribe, I only like VGC, now is your time to subscribe. So if we start with Landorus, the best place to start is looking at the stats of Landorus, and the thing that should jump out there is a ridiculous attack of 145. This is crazy high and means we are very much a physical attacker here. Speed of 91 is pretty high. It's not the highest in the game, but it's high enough that we can take advantage of it and outspeed most other Pokemon. In terms of natures to boost those stats, there's really only 2 that serious players are using. We've got Adamant Nature, which puts the attack up and special attack down, or Jolly Nature, which puts your speed up and special attack down. Remember, if you're in the video game, you're either a physical or a special attacker, so when you land on physical, you can put special attack down. It doesn't matter. And the choice here really is, do you want to outspeed your opponent, or do you want to try and get a bit more damage on the field? Although with an attack of 145, a lot of the time you'll probably be doing enough anyway. There is only 1 real ability that we have for Landorus, but it's okay because it's literally the best ability in the game. It's Intimidate, and that means that when Landorus hits the field, both opposing Pokemon have their attack lowered by 1 stage. Doesn't do much against special attackers, but we saw with Arcanine and Gyarados and all sorts in VGC 17 that this is absolutely something which is going to be a big part of VGC 18. It's the best ability in the game. So we've already got really good stats and a great ability, and you can add to that a really good weakness profile. Because if we look at this, you have immunity to both ground, being a flying type Pokemon, and electric, being a ground type Pokemon. 2 immunities is rare, and that's amazing, but the other thing is you've only got 2 weaknesses here. You have a 2 times weakness to water and a 4 times weakness to ice. 2 weaknesses, that is good. 2 immunities, that is spectacular. Add them up and you've got more good things to love about this particular Pokemon. But as with all Pokemon, we need to be looking at the moves that you're using, and I can't go through every possible move here, but I can show you the main ones people tend to be using. Earthquake is a huge one. It is a ground type move. All of these are physical unless I say, because, you know, Landorus is a physical attacker. 100 power, 100 accuracy, and it hits all Pokemon on the field, including your partner, which is why people might play it with something like Mega Charizard Y, a flying Pokemon who will be immune to this. It's just a really powerful ground type move that hits both the defending Pokemon. And of course you do get that same type attack bonus where your attacks do 1.5 times as much if the attack and the Pokemon are of the same type. At this point, ground. Rock Slide is another double attacking move that's really good. It hits both opposing Pokemon but not your own. It's a rock type so you don't get the same type attack bonus, and it's only got accuracy of 90%, so sometimes you're going to miss. But it hits both the opposing Pokemon and gives a 30% chance of causing flinch. And what you do here is you boost your speed as much as you can, more on that later, and then nice and simply, you just sit there using Rock Slide at the beginning of every turn. Hopefully you'll outspeed your opponent, which, with a Choice Scarf and full EVs and a jolly nature, you should be able to do so against most Pokemon, and then of course you've got a 30% chance of flinch against each Pokemon, and you use this to buy yourself extra turns. U-turn is another very good move. Now this is weirdly a bug type move, and it's only got 70 power. But that's alright, because U-turn makes you retreat, and here it's nice and simple. You start with Landorus, Intimidate comes down, lowers attack by 1 stage. You use U-turn to go back, then you bring Landorus in and put their attack down by another stage. Use U-turn to go back, and so on and so forth. It's still a physical move, it'll still do a fair amount of damage, but U-turn is used to recycle Intimidates and wreck your opponent's attack. Superpower is just a super powerful move. It's fighting, so you don't get that same type attack bonus, but 120 power and 100 accuracy, nothing to be sniffed at, ladies and gentlemen. The only downside here is that it will lower your own attack and defense, which kind of sucks. But with Pokemon like Snorlax and Mega Kangaskhan looking to be big in the upcoming format, having a super powerful fighting move is something that you really want to have in a lot of metas. You also have access to Knockoff, which is a dark type move, but it's not really about the typing here, it's about the fact that it removes your opponent's held item and does extra damage if they have a held item to remove. It's really nice against stuff like Porygon 2, for instance, that really just wants that Eviolite. Though Porygon 2 itself is not actually projected to be big in VGC 2018. The last move you often see here is Hidden Power Ice. Quite simply, you use it because you want an ice move to use against opposing Landoruses. It's a special attacking move, and it's only got 60 power, but it still does a lot more damage against an opposing Landorus than any of your other moves you'd be expecting to use, especially if the opposing Landorus does not have an Assault Vest. Speaking of which, let's have a look at the main items used here, and again there are other things you can use, but generally people tend to use things like Assault Vest, which increases your special defense by 50%, but means you can only use damaging attacks, and this is because a lot of the ice type moves like Ice Beam, like Hidden Power Ice, which are so good against Landorus, tend to be special moves, so you need to boost your special defense a little bit, or at least some builds of Landorus do. Choice Scarf is an obvious choice here for many builds. It boosts your speed by 50%, but you can only use the first move you select. So you can use this with U-turn, for instance, get that Intimidate up, then flick out, or you can use this with Rock Slide. You will have a huge boost to your speed to do the Rock Slide trick we talked about earlier, but then again, you can only use Rock Slide there. You can't switch to another move unless you switch out. Life Orb is a fun one. It increases all damage you do by 30%, but you lose 10% of your maximum HP every turn. And this is if you're going for a flat out, I am going to smash you Landorus. Full EVs on attack, Life Orb, and just smash, smash, smash. Focus Sash is kind of a nice choice. It basically means that if you would be KO'd when you've got full health, you go down to 1 HP remaining instead. It prevents one-hit KOs. And with a whole bunch of Pokemon running around trying to one-hit and counter Landorus, this can give you a chance to get an extra move off. And the last one that people tend to use here is Choice Band. This increases your attack by 50%, but like with Choice Scarf, you can only use the first move you select. You would often see this if people were just sitting there using Earthquake. It means your Earthquake becomes super powerful, but it means you can't use anything else. Or you might see this again on a U-turn Landorus to get a little bit more damage as you cycle Intimidate. And I said last one, but that was of course silly because I didn't mention Groundium Z. This is the new item that of course Landorus never had before because there were no Z moves back then. And it gives you Tectonic Rage, which if taken from an Earthquake, which is the most likely thing, will have a base power of 180. Then you remember that most of these, or at least several of them, are adamant. Then you remember the huge attack, and then you remember that a lot of people put a lot of EVs into attack. This will KO a lot of things. Now, in terms of partners, we're not going to go into a huge amount of detail here, but I will be doing extra videos on Pokemon cores rather than just individual Pokemon. But you might consider Pokemon like Charizard that's immune to Earthquake and is just one of the best Pokemon in the format, or maybe even Tapu Koko that's also really good, but could use Discharge without hitting you because you're immune to its electric attacks. Or maybe even just pairing it with something like Tapu Fini, which is again a great Pokemon, but is really good against opposing Landoruses. More relevant for this particular video is counters. And quite simply, Ice and Water Pokemon. They're your two weaknesses. You have a 4 times weakness to Ice here. So if you take a random, non-same type attack bonus Ice Beam user, let's say Porygon Z that has a very high special attack, if you just have your general Landorus, it's going to be an exceedingly easy one-hit KO. If you have a Landorus that goes for Assault Vest to boost your special defense, and goes for full EVs in special defense, which is unlikely, that's generally not what Landorus does, you've still got a chance to get a one-hit KO on Porygon Z, although it's not a huge chance. If we take your average Landorus spread and just give him an Assault Vest, it ain't gonna survive an Ice Beam from Porygon Z. We could also look at my boy Mamoswine. Come on, Mamoswine might be relevant. We're going to see a lot of Mamoswine references in these videos. If we take a Landorus-Therian, we give him full defense. We're not giving him an item to boost defense because no one is doing that. Then Icicle Crash from a Mamoswine will get a guaranteed one-hit KO. Yeah. You've got a little bit of a weakness here to Ice-type moves. Sorry about that. Water as well. If Landorus is going heavy on the Rock Slide and Earthquake, then obviously Wide Guard that protects your team from double hitting moves will be a big deal. And Intimidate. Intimidate's a great ability for you, but you are a physical attacker, so Intimidate will take you down as well. The other thing that could be really annoying is Tapu Bulu, which comes in with its grassy terrain and reduces the effectiveness of ground-type moves. But of course, this is only good if Groundium Z is big. If Landorus users start using Flyinium Z, which is quite hard to pronounce, then your 2-time weakness to flying will be a huge issue. Having said that, if we look at the battle spot at the moment, we can see that only 0.9% of users are actually using Flyinium Z, whereas we see 18.5% using Groundium Z, meaning that Tapu Bulu is a decent counter for the moment. Now, in terms of sets, I'm going to give you some example sets here. Hopefully, I've given you all the information you need to make your own set, but I'll give you some examples here as well. Terry Newton has put his Landorus online. He plays it with a Choice Scarf and an Adamant nature, so he's actually gone for speed on the Choice Scarf, but he's gone Adamant to get a bit of extra damage, and we see the usual 252 EV into speed, but we see 132 into HP, 116 into attack, and a little bit into defense and special defense. So what we see here is a Landorus that's got a little bit of extra bulk, while still having the speed from EVs and Choice Scarf, but then doing more damage from EVs and the Adamant nature. Now we can see that this particular build of Landorus will get an easy one-hit KO on a Tapu Koko and, well, that's with Earthquake, and with Rock Slide on your standard Mega Charizard Y, both of which figure to be quite important in the upcoming metagame. And we can see that it would survive an Ice Beam from Cresselia, but would not be able to take either a Scald or Muddy Water from Tapu Fini, a Hidden Power Ice from Heatran, or an Overheat from Mega Charizard Y. If, however, we take this set and just chuck it into an Assault Vest, for instance, then all of a sudden it does survive both Muddy Water and Scald, it does survive Hidden Power Ice from Heatran, and it almost certainly survives an Overheat from Mega Charizard Y, although there is a very small chance that it does exactly the maximum possible damage and takes you out. If you want your average standard Landorus, then you just put 252 EVs into speed and attack, because they're the two you want to boost, and you put the extra 4 into HP. I've given you lots of options in terms of moves and items and all of that. I leave it up to you, ladies and gentlemen. I've tried to lay out the different ways to play Landorus, and I've given you a couple of examples of sets, but honestly, as with all of these, you just need to figure out for your metagame and play around with different options and see what you feel comfortable with. The goal of this video is that you walk away going, that's why Landorus is so good. Here are some of my options. I hope I've done that. Now do make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter @TheWassy. And do leave a comment down below, tell me what you think about Landorus, and please put your sets down below. Show me how you're playing Landorus. I'm sure everybody else will be as keen as I am to see if you'd like to share. And do check out my video game channel, Wassy Plays, which has been recently relaunched, and I would love you all to go and subscribe there. Like I said at the beginning, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be seeing regular VGC videos, minimum one a weekend, and I'm hoping to put it more regular than that. So do make sure you're subscribed and make sure that you're following for future. But the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.